CM Punk's entry into the UFC was an unexpected and odd move by the organization. The UFC essentially tried to create another successful fighter from the WWE world, like they did with Brock Lesnar. However, CM Punk's story panned out completely differently from Brock Lesnar's. This experiment by the UFC is probably one of their most controversial ones, because Punk literally had no MMA background. No one can deny the success that CM Punk had in the WWE. He brought in a lot of money for the company and created a huge fan base. Unfortunately, on January 27, 2014, Punk announced his departure from the WWE due to his dissatisfaction with the company. This raised the question, what was next for CM Punk? After many months, we finally got the answer to that. In December of 2014, Punk announced his multi-fight contract with the UFC to try something new. This led to mixed opinions among fans and fighters alike. On one hand, some were genuinely excited to see CM Punk in the UFC. On the other hand, there were fans and fighters who criticized this move, questioning its legitimacy and fairness. In an interview, Nate Diaz was asked about his thoughts on CM Punk joining the UFC, and this man did not hold back. Diaz straight up slammed the decision.
Oh, big announcement. Punk gets to fight in the UFC. I don't dig it.
Voicing his frustration that fighters who had dedicated their entire lives to MMA were passed over for opportunities in favor of someone like Punk, solely because of his name.
I'm over here busting my and fighting for 10 years and doing my thing and having a serious job that I have to do for this. And
you have to realize that this man had no prior MMA experience. And when I say no prior MMA experience, I literally mean zero experience. The UFC, and especially Dana White, knew how popular and marketable CM Punk was. Similar to Brock Lesnar, Punk brought a lot of WWE fans over to the UFC. They saw this as a great way to sell pay-per-views, so they decided to feature Punk on the main card, which had to have been a punch in the face for other fighters who worked their asses off for many years to earn a spot on the main card. After signing with the UFC, CM Punk began his MMA training in 2015. At 37 years old, he was already at a disadvantage because of his age, but this didn't stop him. He started training at Rufus Sport, run by former kickboxer and coach Duke Rufus. Training at Rufus Sport was a big advantage, with guys like Ben Askren, Anthony Pettis, and Tyron Woodley also training there. With all of this training, many MMA fans were eager to see CM Punk make his UFC debut. Unfortunately, in October of 2015, Punk suffered a shoulder injury which set his debut back a couple of months. After fully recovering from his shoulder injury, it was time for CM Punk to make his debut. Many fans wondered who he would face and what weight class he would fight in. One guy that Dana White had in mind was Mickey Gall. Gall was featured on Dana White's reality show Looking for a Fight, where Gall defeated Ron Templeton and went on to call out CM Punk. This led to Gall earning his first UFC contract, where he took on Mike Jackson in his debut, and whoever won that fight between the two would get the chance to face off against CM Punk for his debut. Not gonna lie, this fight between the two was make-a-wish or something, because Gall destroyed Mike Jackson, submitting him within 45 seconds of the fight. After the fight, Punk walked into the octagon where the fight between him and Gall was basically confirmed. Almost 2 years after signing his contract with the UFC, a 37-year-old CM Punk was set to fight a young 24-year-old Mickey Gall at UFC 203 at 170 pounds. This fight was featured on the main card, which was crazy considering it was Punk's UFC debut and Gall's second fight in the UFC. But hey, whatever gets more pay-per-views sold, am I right? Many fans along with the skeptics were eager to see how Punk would hold up in the octagon, but boy was this an absolute disaster class. Within 5 seconds of the fight, Gall took down CM Punk and mauled him. Then Gall took Punk's back, grounding and pounding him even more, eventually submitting him with the rear naked choke in round 1. I felt bad for Punk, but there's just levels to this game. Despite getting his ass kicked, many fans respected him for having the balls to step into the octagon. In the post-fight interview, Punk said that he had a fun night and that he will come back, along with dropping an inspirational quote that talked about chasing your dreams, which sort of softened the blow of losing. Win or lose, this guy had my respect. After Punk's poor debut, Dana said that Punk probably shouldn't have another UFC fight.
Had an option. He probably shouldn't have his next fight in the UFC, you know?
But come on, we all knew Dana wasn't going to pass up on the opportunity to sell more pay-per-views. After starting his career 0-1, Punk decided to take some time off to improve and become a better fighter. Nearly after 2 years of being away from the spotlight and training, a 39-year-old CM Punk was set to face off against Mike Jackson at UFC 225. Yup, this is the same guy that lost to Mickey Gall when the two debuted. To be honest, Mike Jackson wasn't all that. He too was an amateur, so Punk's odds of winning the fight were slightly better than his debut against Mickey Gall. Once again, this fight would be featured on the main card, which was ridiculous. Anyways, it was time to see how Punk would hold up this time, with more training under his belt. Punk looked much better this time, landing a jab and a few body kicks, even securing a takedown towards the end of round 1. However, things started to go south for CM Punk. Mike Jackson started piecing up Punk, which led to Punk attempting sloppy guillotines. After rewatching the fight, it straight up looked like Mike Jackson wasn't trying at all. There were so many opportunities where Jackson could have ended the fight, but chose not to do so for whatever reason. After one of the most awkward 3 rounds, the fight went to a decision, where Punk lost unanimously. However, a few years later, the decision got overturned into a no contest because Jackson failed a drug test for marijuana. In the post-fight press conference, Dana pretty much wrapped up the CM Punk experiment by saying that Punk was done fighting in the UFC.
No, it's probably should be a wrap, you know. The guy's 39 years old.
He also went on to rip Mike Jackson apart for not finishing the fight when he had several opportunities to do so.
Michael Jackson, I'm not happy with. This guy was acting like a football tonight. You get this opportunity to come in and fight CM Punk, and you're doing like bolo punches to the body on top.
After a wild 3 years, the CM Punk experiment had come to an end, with Punk concluding his professional MMA career with an 0-2 record. Many people, including Joe Rogan, slammed CM Punk for fighting in the UFC. The criticism was kind of harsh, to be honest.
He does not have athletic talent. He's missing a lot. And
while a stunt like this does risk the credibility of the sport, you can't blame Punk for it. After all, it was the organization that tried building him up and failed miserably by putting his fights on the main cards. However, not everyone was slamming Punk for his attempt at fighting in the UFC. Conor McGregor said that he respected CM Punk for going into the octagon and fighting.
Conor, CM Punk lost today, so you think you were right?
I'll tell you what, fair play to him, because he got in there and fought, and not a lot of people do.
After a failed MMA career, Punk would go on to join the AEW and also made his comeback to the WWE. CM Punk had no reason to fight in the UFC. This man was already so successful in the WWE, but many fans can respect him for wanting to try something new. What do you guys think? Was this the worst UFC experiment ever? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you guys for showing so much love on this channel. It genuinely means a lot. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below. Anyways guys, take it easy.